So today I'd like to introduce Britt Dowdy, who is running for the presidency of the union, the NMFT, the Newport Mesa Unified District Organization Union. And here's a little bit about Britt. He was the NMFT. He has been the NMFT vice president for 4 years. He's been was on the negotiating team for a couple of years. He's a T-Winkle teacher, science teacher, right now. He was the VP for a couple of years at Estancia, and his wife teaches third grade at Davis, so totally associated with Newport Mesa. Good background, right? So, hi, Brett.
Hi, Sandy.
And he got his doctorate at SC. So, congratulations. When was that?
Graduated in 2011.
Good work. Maybe at some point it'll be worth the money, right? Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I might as well start. So, what do you? And I'm asking everybody. I'm asking all three of you that are running the same questions. You can answer them any way you want, though you don't have to answer them as you think other people might do, and I know you won't. So, what do you think is the most important issue for teachers in the district right now?
Really, I think it boils down to a respect issue for teachers and the other members that we represent, which are not just teachers, but there's other special ed professionals and psychologists and nurses and librarians and SLPs, etc. But curriculum issues are a huge concern for the classroom teachers. There have been massive curricular change over the past 3 to 4 years that have removed the structure of having a publisher textbook series for elementary teachers. Many teachers, when they started in the district, were in the you have to be on this page at a time and you turn, and now here's just a rough frame and you need to create everything. And they don't have prep time to do that. And they're being asked to completely invent the entire curriculum in all disciplines with no prep time. In secondary, we're making a shift to Common Core. And as we're asking kids to think and write more critically, that becomes extremely more time intensive on grading and assessing and giving feedback to the students. Mm-hmm. And they're really, from a classroom teacher perspective, it really is adding to your plate in a significant way. So when we go to the table, the negotiations table, and we ask for things that are not extremely expensive, such as substitute release time or additional preparation time for teachers, or acknowledgement that caseloads for our different staff are large. There needs to be a respect and a validation that is a concern, and finding an avenue and path that's fiscally responsible, but also helps to relieve those burdens of the people we represent.
So, if I can get this straight, so everybody's kind of they're having to develop their own curriculum, correct?
We have, I think the district has frameworks for curriculum, which are good, and they have teams of teachers working to develop those frameworks. However, the details are often left up to the individual, and they might be all details for the entire unit, and it varies by grade level and varies by discipline.
Okay, so as the president of the union, if you're elected, what would you do about this? How would you solve this problem?
What I would want to do first is to reach out to John Drake, who's the director of curriculum and instruction, and try to find a path for this, or work with the executive directors of secondary and elementary, and first seek acknowledgement that this is a significant impact on teachers. Secondly, I know there is a pathway for adopting textbooks, etc. However, for example, in middle school science, it's 3 years away. So for the next couple of years, and that's on a state level. On a state level, it's 3 years away. So there is it's good to be on the front edge of curriculum. It's good to have teachers invested in the curriculum. However, asking teachers to invent all of it completely is very time intensive, and it's when you have 1 hour of prep a day, or you have 1 hour of prep a week, or no prep at all, it's hard to do. And I think we need to kind of look at alternative ways to, if we're writing our own curriculum, how can we do that so it's not on the classroom teacher? Are there full-time release teachers that need to do this? But I think it's one of those areas that we can work with the administration on trying to find a pathway.
Okay. So you would then speak with...
I would want to work with the administrators in charge of curriculum, try to find a pathway to get this to happen. And if the goal is for it to be Newport Mesa created, okay, then let's find the staff in-house that can help with this curriculum. Or if we need to bring in some outside people, which we haven't had the best results with the past couple of years, I think we can find the expertise in-house. But we're going to have to hire more staff to do that, because it's impossible to write the curriculum and teach a full day. It's just not feasible.
Okay, kind of the hanging on to that notion. The second question that I have is, as president, if you're elected, what do you think your relationship with the district should be?
I think there needs.
I mean, you were talking about sort of an advisory capacity, like they don't really understand what it's like being a teacher under these conditions, right? So, but then what would your demeanor be? What would your relationship with the district be?
Well, I think I currently do have a strong relationship with all the people that I'm mentioning. I've worked with them in the past, either when I was a TOSA working with different sites, or when I was an assistant principal and I worked with them, or now when I'm attending multiple professional developments, or in my capacity as a union officer. I've interacted with many of these same people. So I feel like I have the respect. I feel like I have good communication with them. And what I would want to do, I think the president of NMFT needs to have fierce, open conversations when things are out of place. I think that they also need to realize that there is a middle ground for most solutions. And I think that the president of MFT needs to make sure they have a professional relationship that it's not a negative relationship. There might be times that you say something saying that someone is at fault, or you disagree, but there's a way to do that and still be respectful of each other. And at the end of the day, we do need to find a way to mediate and find a solution so we can move forward. And if both parties are upset with each other, you're not going to be able to find that middle ground. And I think that's something that I can bring to the table.
Communication is always important. How do you plan to communicate with the more than 1,100 teachers?
I think that right now many of our members feel that their voice is not directly heard. I think is a theme that I've heard from different people. So a highly effective strategy that's used in most unions is you have a way to have one-on-one conversations with every member. You use, in essence, something analogous to a phone tree, and you have face-to-face conversations between the leadership, site representatives, sites themselves, and you have a two-way conversation about the issues at hand, whatever that issue may be, and then you have a way to record that feedback and capture it, and so that members' ideas are heard. That is one piece. Another piece is we need to have a regular monthly newsletter that's published. It can be either sent electronically or it could be printed, showing up in mailboxes. We haven't had that for years, and we need to be having that. We need to have a regular system to do that. We need to make sure that our committees that are responsible for that, which are in our bylaws, have the chair and have the people so that work gets done. Because the officers are volunteers and we're swamped. So we need a larger pool of people that we call on for those tasks. I believe that we need the officers, the president, the people who have release time need to get out to each site at least once or twice a year. Be there, talk with the members. It doesn't have to be on a specific issue. It's just kind of to get a feel for what's going on. And so, one-to-one conversations, quality regular print newsletters, and then just being visible at the sites.
That sounds good. I think that communication is really. How would you do communication with others, like with the community at large?
I think we need to strengthen our relationships of having NMFT's message going out to the daily pilot, communicating with yourself, because a lot of people respect and listen to you and the way that you put things out there on your blog and items like this. I think Steve Smith is a person who has an active voice in the community, and we can collaborate with him. I think we also need to have those personal relationships with the school board members and make sure that they hear the teacher side of things. So it's not always a one-sided conversation. I think we also need to build our relationship with CSEA. We have had strong relationships in the past, and I know at the sites we have extremely strong relationships. So I just want to make sure that we continue that positive relationship because we have a lot of commonalities, especially with benefits, especially when it comes to working with kids. We have those common interests. So it's more than just internal communications.
Fear is a big issue among many teachers with regard to speaking out. And it's real. So how would you address that fear?
I think by having these conversations we just spoke about and having effective two-way communications, if I as president understand what their fears are, if I am able to speak on their behalf to these bigger issues and can speak to the superintendent or to the cabinet or to the school board directly, that's my role. So I can be their conduit, which is one way to serve as a buffer between that teacher. I think also we need to validate the reality of the situation. And for most union members and for most of the persons we represent, their local site principal or district office supervisor is the person that they interact with. And the overwhelming majority of those relationships are positive and strong. And encourage them to have that open conversation with your supervisor and tell them what you think, and know that, when you put your union hat on, you do have legal protections in the job. But there is a reality to it. For example, if you're trying to get to a job at the district office, it may be harder to get that job, such as being a TOSA, or you're wanting to get into administration within this district. That may make the path more complicated. But typically at the site itself, most people, it goes smoothly. So I think letting people know that their concerns are valid, serving as the voice for them, setting the example for them by me taking the podium, which I have at several school board meetings, or going on record, with you and winding up on generations to come on some internet site, letting them know that's okay, and it's part of what we do.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Britt, why do you think you'd be the best choice for president of the union?
Well, I think what makes me a bit different from the other candidates are three personality traits I'm going to touch on. And I'm going to touch on them real quickly, and I'll come back to each one. So one is just my personality is kind of a calm, even keel type mentality. Secondly, I'm highly competent on all the issues we're dealing with. I've been working with them for years in many different ways. And then the third thing is leadership. I've been a leader at various levels throughout my life, and especially with the union activities as well. So when I mention like a calm demeanor, I think it's important that our president is able to have those strong conversations with whomever it is and not get angry and say something that's going to regret later. I think that it's important that our president is able to speak clearly, quickly, to the point, and say what needs to be said, and then be quiet and listen. I think it's important for our president to have the ability to have many different tasks at hand going on simultaneously and prioritize what's the hot issue that impacts the entire membership versus what's the smaller issue that impacts one or two members very deeply, and being able to prioritize time accordingly so that you balance things and that you can be a problem solver along those lines. I was trained as an engineer. That was what my undergrad was in. And I think doing that, you start to look at what is important, what's a big impact versus what's a smaller impact. And you're able to take big complex problems and put them into parts and pieces and say, okay, well, I need you to help with here, help here, and you can delegate things. And I think those are some skills that I have. In terms of competence for the job, boy, I've been extremely involved with all things NMFT and every slice while I've been on the executive board. I've represented teachers in some pretty nasty, ugly HR issues on both sides of the issue. Sometimes when the employee needs to be brought back in, and sometimes when the person doing the HR piece it needs to be brought back in. So I've seen both sides of that. I've dealt with right now with our negotiations group. I'm dealing with a lot of budgetary analysis. So I've dove into what's going on with our salaries and benefits and what's the impact of members. How does the district budget work in terms of working with this? I have been tasked with taking on individual projects within NMFT and trying to bring leadership to them. Right now I've got an open grievance that I filed standing up for many teachers for hot classrooms, and still waiting for a resolution to that. We had step 2 of the process was back in January. We're kind of still waiting for the next pieces to happen.
It takes such a long time.
Takes such a long time, and that's part of the process. I've been to all the site meetings for 6 years, site rep meetings. I've gone to all of the information meetings. I mean, I'm at everything. I'm in that office many days and evenings and late hours and been there till midnight, and I've done all of those things. I'm highly dedicated, so I've got the competence. And the last thing for leadership is it just echoes into what I was just saying. I've been a leader on many of these issues. I don't think being an Eagle Scout is a huge deal, but a lot of other people tell me it is, so they say, you should mention that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's, So
I think it's a huge deal.
I think it's a measure of integrity that you've had since being a teenager. You have set goals and you've met those goals, and I've done that throughout my life. You mentioned that I got a doctorate. Well, that was a goal I set when I was in my early 20s. I wanted to be the first person in my family to earn a doctorate.
Wow.
And so while my wife and I, had a lot of sacrifices, and physically it probably may never pay off, I don't know, but it was a personal goal. I wanted to invest in myself because I believe in this profession, and that's why I want to step up to be a leader. For me, this is an act of service to our members. It's not about me and ego. It's about I see a need for our membership, that we need a change that is dedicated for written plans and some checklists and some calendars and making sure that we've got priorities for things, and making sure that we rebuild the strength relationships that we've had in the past. And that's why I'm running, is to try to get us back on track.
Okay, and you have a beautiful website.
Well,
so would you like to tell everybody how to reach you
Sure.
through the website, and maybe any other way you can do that?
So it's shown up on some different pieces of information that have shown up out there, but it's www.britt4nmft.com. So that's BRIT4nmft.com.
The numeral 4, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Brett.
Thank you, Sandy.